a new favorite and a series that I think you should definitely be reading. Hey everyone, welcome back to Andrew's Wizardly Reads, and as always guys, I'm Andrew. Today I have got a Why You Should Read. But before we get into that video, make sure you're liking and subscribing and hitting that bell notification so you can get regular updates for when I put out new content. I post every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And that said guys, today's Why You Should Read is, if you can see it right there, it is Mike Shel's Iconoclasts. This is a fantastic series, and I'm going to explain to you why I think you should pick up this series. And at the end of the video, I have got an announcement. So, what is this series about? Well, first of all, I do have a non-spoiler book review for the first book, Aching God. And so I'm going to go ahead and link that up in the cards if you want to check that out instead. Additionally, if you saw my self-pub recommendations, this also makes the list. And I do a kind of a sales pitch there as well. As you can see, I really want people to read this trilogy. But that said, this is a dedicated Why You Should Read, and let's start off with kind of the synopsis of the first book, Aching God. Right behind the camera, I have my Goodreads pulled up, so I'm going to read this blurb. And it says, "The days of adventure are past for Auric Manteo, retired to the countryside and isolated with his scars and riches. He no longer delves into forbidden ruins, seeking dark wisdom and treasure. But just as old nightmares begin plaguing his sleep, he receives an urgent summons back to that old life. To save his only daughter, he must return to the place of his greatest trauma, the haunted Barrowlands, along with a group of inexperienced companions and an old soldier. He must confront the dangers of the ancient and wicked Jiao civilization. He has survived fell beasts, insidious traps, and deadly hazards before. But how can he contend with the malice of a bloodthirsty living god?" And that is a fantastic blurb on what is kind of the heart and soul of the series. And essentially, it's just adventure, it's treasure hunting, it's fighting evil. It's almost a little Indiana Jonesy with a much darker twist to it. I love it. I would classify this entire trilogy probably as dark fantasy. It might have some elements of lit RPG. The author did used to work for the company that puts out the Pathfinder source books, I believe. Or I believe maybe modules. I don't know. I'll have to look into that. But yeah, so there is a little bit of a tabletop feel to this series, but I don't think it hurts it at all. And ultimately, what I think this series does really well is it explores humanity and family and strained relationships and found families and tragedy and loss and horror in this just absolutely fantastic and unique way. Structurally, all of these books are kind of like each their own contained adventure. Essentially, from where we start off here, basically we start off with Ulrich, who then has to go to the Citadel and then has to go to the Barrowlands after he's acquired a group. And then, of course, in Sin Eater, we start off at the Citadel. We have to go to the Barrowlands. So basically, the way it works is, you get your mission at the Citadel, or from the Queen, who is Citadel adjacent. And then you go to the Barrowlands, and then you report back the events of that. So we always start off, kind of like Indiana Jones at the museum, we start off at the Citadel. And it's really, really cool because it makes the trilogy feel very episodic instead of just one continuous story. So you can kind of read Aching God, then you can move on to Sin Eater, and then you can move on to Idol's Fall without really feeling like, oh, this is just one continuous story, I have to sprint through it. So I really like that. It's really refreshing. Also, the way that Mike Shel packs a punch and makes you identify with Auric Manteo, who I feel is probably one of the best protagonists I've read all year, is simply that, you just delve into this man's humanity. Essentially, his backstory is very tragic. And he's still, fighting to be a good man and trying to do what's best for not only him, but his family, even if his daughter doesn't want him to do that. So, essentially, 3 to 4 years prior to the start of the series, Auric Manteo went to the Barrowlands with his normal party, and they all got slaughtered. And basically, he was found roaming the Barrowlands just catatonic, just zoned out, just not there anymore. And so he was allowed to retire. to this country estate where he fell in love again after the tragic, because previously, his wife had committed suicide because of the death of their son, who had followed Auric into the field or into his profession, and then he had tragically died. And so then his wife couldn't handle that, and then he tried to sabotage his daughter into following in her brother and his footsteps, and she fought back on that, and now she's got this plague that's caused by this cursed object that Auric has been recalled to take back to the Banished Lands. And so this man's life has not been easy. He had a very troubled upbringing as a child, and just all of that is explored within the psyche of Auric Manteo that is delivered to the reader through these nightmare sequences. Basically, whenever we get an Auric POV, he's kind of waking up from a nightmare, so he's experiencing these really dark horror / dark fantasy sequences that are just really messed up, and it's really, really cool. The way the world is kind of built is that the civilization that the Syriac League is a part of, which is essentially is the Syriac League, is the order that Auric Manteo retired from and that his daughter is currently a part of. And basically they reside in the capital with the queen, and their headquarters is the Citadel. But basically they are treasure hunters, they are wisdom seekers. They go out to the Barrowlands, which is the home of the fallen Jiao civilization. Basically thousands of years ago, the Jiao were the ruling people. And they had high magic and technology and all of this stuff, and then Cataclysm happened. No one really knows what happened. But then the current people rediscovered about 1,000 years ago, rediscovered these ruins, and ever since then they've been sending in expeditions, researching, and while doing this, they rediscovered the Jiao gods, and now they worship these individuals. And you've got Timbalus, who is a prankster god, and just all sorts of, you've got a god of healing, you've got a god of battle, all of these gods who have had all these orders built up to them. And then we've also got a unknown god called the Aching God, who is just previously unknown and has a deeper mystery that kind of throws you into the rest of the trilogy's story. So where we are at in Aching God is just we get a fantastic, fantastic story. When we get to Sin Eater, we start to really explore father and daughter dynamics between Agnes and Auric, and all of the tragedy and the loss and the gut punches and just the emotional feels and adventures that we experience throughout this series are absolutely fantastic, and I cannot recommend them enough. False Idols really, really just seals the deal for me. I mean, it was such a good adventure, and to see how we got there is truly, truly fascinating. Essentially, Mike Shel took serious risks in this series, in my opinion, with the way that, the twists and the turns and the shock value and the overall mechanics and just everything really comes together very, very well to deliver a really polished, really solid story. I mean, just the entire through line of this series is absolutely fantastic. And that kind of brings me to the announcement. Essentially, I sent a book to my good friend Leslie from the Nerdy Narrative, and then we got to talking. And while I just finished Idol's Fall last month, I was like, do you want to read Aching God together? She's like, you know what? Why don't, you seem really passionate about this series. Why don't we do a read-along in your Discord? And I will co-host it. So, that is kind of another thing that I am re-announcing, is I am going to be co-hosting, starting in October, a read-along with Leslie for the entire Iconoclast trilogy. So October, November, and December, we're going to be reading one a month, and then to finish that all out, Leslie and I are going to be interviewing Mike Shel, the author, on my channel. So if you want to join in, please, by all means. I believe these books are available on Kindle Unlimited. So if you want to get the ebook, you can definitely do that. Or if you want some really, really great physical copies, I mean, these feel great in the hand. It's very readable type, wide margins, good line spacing, decent sized font, and just really, really awesome cover art. It's got a crease here so that you can open it very easily. Nice and floppy. Not a whole lot of scent if that's something that is important to you, but still really, really great physical copies. I have zero complaints, and I am so happy to have these on my shelves. So there's just so much to love about the Iconoclasts, and I really, really hope that you join us for this read-along. So, if you want to join that read-along, in October I will be creating channels in the Whistly Duo Discord, which you can find the link to in the description down below. So go ahead, drop into that description, click the link, jump in, and join us. Or, let me know in the comments section down below what you thought of Aching God, what you thought of Iconoclasts as a whole, Sun Eater, Idols Fall, what have you. I would love to absolutely discuss this series with you in the comments section. So, till next time, guys. Peace out. Stay magical.